hello there, and welcome to A Conversation With. My name is Bryan. I'm the editor of Neuse, and joining me here for this edition is, I guess I can call you a good friend, right?
I hope so.
Very good.
Yeah.
Clay Whittington is joining us here on, like I said, the latest edition of A Conversation With. And Clay, we're going to say this several times throughout this, I'm sure, but you have a big show that's going to be taking place this Friday night at the Red Room. Tell us a little bit about that.
To be at the Red Room downtown Kinston, piano bar type show from 9 to 1. Basically, audience driven performance, requests and all. So, yeah.
Okay, people probably know you because you have been in the art scene in Kinston and Lenoir County for a while now. I mean, I'm probably for about a decade and a half now altogether when you look at it.
Right.
I've had an opportunity, okay, and in the interest of full disclosure, because we're good journalists here, or I'm a good journalist, we do have to declare I am dating his mom, okay? So, sorry about that, okay?
It's all good.
But I knew you before that.
We're still good friends.
There you go. But I've known you for a long time. I mean, we worked in the press box at Granger Stadium for a while. I've watched you in my 17 years here just kind of grow up a little bit, and it's been neat. But give people a little bit of a background about where you came from. I mean, where you went to high school, how you got into the field that you're in.
Well, born and raised here in Kinston. Went to Kinston High, graduated in 2005, barely. And after that, LCC for a bit, ECU for a bit, and working mostly with the United Methodist Church and Episcopal churches for the past probably 13, 15 years. Mm-hmm. And aside from that, gigs around town or around eastern North Carolina all the way to, well, California. And some time in Texas doing musical theater, even musical theater here in Kinston. And more recently, 2.5 years with Carnival Cruise Lines in the piano bars.
And that's going to be something we're going to talk about here in a moment, too, especially that part, because I had such a good time. Your mother and I had a chance to go on a cruise with Takima Parson and a bunch of people from Kinston had a chance to see that, so we're going to hit on that in a moment.
Scariest week of my life.
We're going to talk about that. But what got you into this field? And before you do that, yes, I know the interviewer is never supposed to take over the interview, but I've got to share this one story about Clay that his mom, Linda, has told me.
Oh,
but they're on a trip, and, you know, the kids are in the car. One's looking at a comic book. One's asleep, I think, and young Clay here has a music book. Go ahead, tell the rest of the story.
That was it. I was reading a music book, and she thought it was interesting.
She said it went on for hours. They're on a long road trip, and you were sitting back there. Like I said, one kid's reading a comic book, the other one's asleep, and you're just taking your time going through it. And do you hear the music when you're reading a music book like that?
Most musicians can look at a sheet of music and hear it in their head. Headphones are overrated, man.
So it came early then for you. The appreciation for the field that you're in.
Yes, very much. I started piano lessons when I was 8 years old over at Carolyn Horton's house on Hardy Road.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, this is Clay Whittington who's with us again. He's got a big show that's going to be this Friday night at 9 o'clock at the Red Room. Be sure to come out there and enjoy that. But tell me a little bit about your road, how you've gotten to where you are right now. You're 30, 31 years
32.
old? 32 years old. Hey, what has gotten you to the point where you are right now?
Luck.
Okay.
Really right place at the right time most of the time. Mm-hmm. I've had opportunities over the past few years that I honestly in the middle of a gig am wondering, how did I get here? Mm-hmm. And everything from playing at Doris Day's Hotel to playing for a few private parties at the AT&T Pro-Am in Pebble Beach. And then, of course, being on a cruise ship in the Caribbean and waking up in Mexico with a margarita in my hand. So, yeah.
Well, let's delve into that a little bit. That's would you consider that? Is that one of the highlights of your career to this point?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
It was a great 2.5 years. I loved every second of it. But I just felt it was time to spread my wings a little more.
Take your career to the next level, I guess. What people, okay, with the show that you did when you were on the cruise ship, you would do I guess a child version, not a child version, but a clean version, and then
family
you would do
show.
A family show. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then you would
That's
do
what
the
we called
adult show. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, I work for a church now, right?
Yes.
I started playing every night at 9 o'clock. If anybody was allowed to come in, I never really kicked anybody out, but unless they were rowdy. But I mean, it was very family oriented, I guess. Sing-alongs, everything from Sweet Caroline on down to Frozen. So right. But and then 11 o'clock would hit, and as the cruise went on, people would realize that 11 o'clock was not for the faint of heart. So,
well, one of the neatest things I liked about that was, we kind of followed you, of course, like I said, dating your mom, and we would follow you on Facebook and everything, and you had. It's not like people would come watch your show and then that was it. I mean, you developed a fan base from doing that, didn't you?
Yes, very much so. A large group of them called themselves the Claymates. Yeah, that's not weird at all.
No. Do you stay in touch with them now that how long has it been since you haven't been doing the shows on Carnival now?
November was when I left the Carnival Pride in Baltimore. So since then I've been home recovering and just ready to move on to the next step.
That's awesome. Well, do any of those fans stay in touch with you? Have they stayed in touch with you since then?
Very much. Daily.
Okay.
Almost. Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, tell us about this show. Well, first, what was your show like? I mean, I know it wasn't just where you had a scripted show. I mean, it was a piano bar.
It was very much off the cuff. It was, I mean, when you're in a piano bar setting like that, the audience is as close to you as I am right now. And it was, I mean, it's based on requests. It's based on what everybody wants to sing. It's also based on their level of intoxication. And so it's, you fly by the seat of your pants behind that piano. And you've got to keep the crowd energetic and interested over a 4-hour span each night, not just by singing songs and sing-alongs, but in toasts, roasts, and I guess banter.
The words she knows, the tune she hums. But oh, how it feels so real, lying here with no one near, only you, and you can't hear me when I say softly, slowly, everybody. Count the headlights on the highway. Maybe now she's a baby. You had a busy day today. Hold me closer, till you dance up. Count the headlights on the highway. Maybe now she's a baby. You had a busy day today.
Well, you have a very good stage presence too when you're up there behind the keyboard. What was I don't know how to phrase this question, the weirdest request or the most memorable night that you had in 2.5 years of doing that just pops out at you?
I think the weirdest request I had was somebody wanted "Come Sail Away" in the style of Eric Cartman. from South Park. So yes, and
How did that
oh
go?
my God, about as well as you think it did, bro. So, yeah.
Well,
it's interesting.
Absolutely. You've got a big show again, as we've talked about. It's going to be at the Red Room on Herritage Street here in Kinston on Friday at 9 o'clock. Is that show that you're going to be doing Friday night? Is it going to be similar to the one that you did on the ship?
As close as possible.
Okay.
Yes. I'm going to have seats and couches around the piano on the stage, and everybody. I mean, people are more than welcome to come up and join me. I actually love that, and audience driven as well. Just if you want to hear a song, if I know it, I'll play it.
One of the neatest things I like about is you don't just play like standards, and he loves Piano Man. Be sure you request Piano Man, okay?
Sure.
But I mean, one moment you're playing Notorious B.I.G., and then the next minute you're playing. I remember that you did that during the show, and then you're doing a country song, and then you're doing Neil Diamond. I mean,
Right.
how have you expanded your musical repertoire to be able to include all that?
Carnival was what did that for
Okay.
me. It was the pressure to expand that repertoire. When I started with Carnival, I think my repertoire list was barely over 200 songs, and when I left after 2.5 years, it was well over 2,000.
So you can play more than 2,000 songs.
I can call them up on my iPad and
Wow.
surely
Wow.
try. So yeah.
Well, this show that you're doing Friday night at the Red Room, that's not the only one that you're going to be doing in the coming weeks, is it?
No, next month and in September, I'm going to be at the Herritage in downtown Kinston as well. So aside from that, it's mostly plenty of gigs with the British Invaders Band.
Tell us a little bit about that. I noticed you're playing with the British Invaders Band.
It's a fun time. It's a great group of guys, very talented musicians. That some of them from Raleigh, Wilmington, Chapel Hill, and we've performed mostly 60s era British music, like the British Invasion era. So it'd be the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Jerry and the Pacemakers, and Herman's Hermits. And
how did you get hooked up with them?
Again, right place, right time. I think got a call from our guitarist while I was on the Carnival Triumph last year, actually, from Mark, and asked me if I'd give it a shot. And said, "Sounds like fun. Let's do it." So.
Well, what is your day job? I mean, I know you're doing this show. You've got other shows coming up. You play with the British Invaders, but you were mentioning something about the church.
Yes,
tell me a little bit about that.
I just started about a month ago with Spillman Memorial Baptist here in Kinston, and it's been a really welcoming church, and I love it. Great choir, great instruments, and everything to play. So yeah.
Well, very good. Well, tell us one more time. This Friday night, Clay Whittington is going to be at the Red Room on Herritage Street in Kinston. Starts at 9 p.m. What other information do people need to know about that?
Just come ready to sing along, rock out. So yeah, that's about it.
Well, very good. Clay Whittington, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, thank you so much for watching this here on Neuse News. I also have a radio show that you're going to be able to listen to starting on July 15th. It's going to be on WRNS, 960 AM, The Bull. It'll be broadcast live on Facebook, too, so be sure to look forward to that on July 15th. But before that, be sure you see Clay Whittington this Friday night at the Red Room in downtown Kinston. Clay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate it.